Yes, we are live. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Real Reds Talk, an authentic football fan channel made in Manchester. Some huge, massive, generational news coming in this morning. A weird time. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on over a lot of stuff. You can tell it's morning for me, Jesus Christ. A lot of stuff that's been going on over the weekend and tension building behind the scenes. There was loads of reports last night after the game where we drew against Leeds. You had certain journalists talking about friction between Amorim and Wilcox and Omar Barada. I was going to call him David Barada for whatever reason. I have absolutely no idea why. But news breaking this morning that Manchester United have sacked Ruben Amorim as the head coach. The 40-year-old Portuguese informed the decision and goes with immediate effect after 14 months following breakdown in relations, and Darren Fletcher is expected to take over on an interim basis. And that was David Ornstein who initially broke that. I was having a look at his record because naturally what you do first thing as soon as you see a manager leave, which is never nice to see a manager go, as a fan, you want to kind of buy into something. You want to believe in something so this club can finally get back to the glory days and finally get back to what this badge means. You know what I mean? So I'm never on the case of just as soon as you start seeing a bit of weakness or you see that we're going through a bit of a sticky patch, I'm never one to jump on the gun and just say sack him, get rid of him, because I know a lot of people are like that. A lot of people are kind of trigger happy, and those kind of people will sit there now and say, oh, I told you about him, I told you he wasn't good enough. But you know what, if you don't believe in a manager, then what's the point in being, do you know what I mean? What's the point in being a fan? Obviously, it gets to a point where it gets a bit stale and he gets a bit stubborn and ego gets involved, and the football that you're seeing on the pitch, you know, the first season when he first came in was an absolute write-off. So people kind of forgive him for that. Then he had the summer. And what I thought was interesting about that, there was someone reported before about, so United stressed that Ruben Amorim backed signing 3 forwards in the summer over strengthening the midfield. There's a growing sense Amorim wanted a midfielder this month, while the club prefers to wait until the summer with a bigger budget. So whether it's decisions on players, whether it's decisions on a certain style and a set play, it's obvious that Wilcox and Omar and Christopher Vell want to set that kind of style, or at least show them a style that's getting results in the Premier League, because it clearly wasn't getting results for Ruben Amorim. The guy had a 38.71 win rate in total, which is the worst of any permanent Man United manager of the Premier League era. So those are the kind of records that he's breaking. 63 matches, 25 wins, 15 draws, and 23 losses. When you've got a sample size that big, right, you're not just talking like a season's worth of games. You're talking nearly 2 seasons worth of games. That's 63 matches. And you're losing nearly as many as you're winning. Like, I wouldn't go as strong as what Carragher said last night. I thought that was quite harsh, saying that, oh, he's not a Man United manager. He's not even a Premier League manager. Like, I think there's a manager in there, but I think in his head, he thought the transition from what he was doing in the Portuguese league to the Premier League, he felt like he could make that work. And it just hasn't. It just hasn't. And it doesn't, as a manager, right, you're designed to get the best out of your players in that system, right? And everyone could sit there now after seeing so many games and going, it didn't get the best out of the players. It just clearly didn't. Whenever we've come up against Wolves or Leeds or Bournemouth and teams like this, those managers, the list of players they have and the money that's been spent on their team is 1/20th of what we have in our team. And you're seeing those teams outperform our team. Now, why is that? Because they're being coached better. Why does Iarola get a better tune out of a, well, you can say a better tune. I know the lower in the league. But in terms of playing style and how they look, Iarola, like even Rob Edwards, outdone us at Old Trafford. Wolves look the better team. And they've got fucking, 5 points in the Premier League? 6 points, one of the worst Premier League teams ever. Like, you're being outdone by managers. And people might point to the results like Liverpool at Anfield, for example. We all know the season that Liverpool's had. And they might point to the Arsenal game, which we still lost. And they might point to, but we do have that we've done that before previously, where we've beaten big teams when people don't expect us to do it, but then lose to teams or drop points. I mean, we dropped points to Nottingham Forest, we dropped points to West Ham, we dropped points to Leeds. 5 out of the 6 teams in the bottom we dropped points to. So any metric you can stack up, any fact you can stack up, it all leads to one decision. All leads to one decision. And apparently this decision to sack Ruben Amorim has been arrived at by the leadership team, including Chief Executive Omar Barada and Director of Football Jason Wilcox, after a breakdown in relations behind the scene. Darren Fletcher is set to take the job on an interim basis. I mean, if we don't get an interim manager in when we sack a manager, is it really Man United? Is it really a season at Manchester United? Do you know what I mean? How many interim managers have we had since Fergie left? Let's do that. Let's go through that. So Fletcher coming in, there's 1. Michael Carrick, there's 2. Ralph Ragnick, there's 3. I'm trying to think, is he a 4th? Ole Van Gaal, Mourinho, Eric Ten Hag. Am I missing any interim managers there? Giggsy, of course. I'll give it Giggsy till the end of the season. Yeah, it's been a bit of a shit show, hasn't it? Interim managers. I'm guessing they've probably got a person in the head who they want to go for. Probably isn't available during the January window and thinks, do you know what? They've seen it before where an interim manager has come in. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer obviously came in on an interim basis, but then got made permanent. They've seen it work before where a manager's come in, freshen things up, unlock the players, and they've got results. And maybe it's a bit of a gamble. They might think, oh, that'll get us into Europe. It's definitely a gamble. I'm sure Tyler Fletcher and Jack Fletcher sat on the bench like, fucking get in. Can't wait for this. I mean, people thought there was favouritism towards Dallo because he was a distant relative of Amorim. Jack Fletcher and Tyler Fletcher are like, fucking get in. I'm going to get loads of minutes. Can't wait for it. Get your thoughts in the comments. I'm interested to see. Ineos out, says Leakey. Johnny Hill says, we're fighting for top 4. Xavi's available right now, as Fabrizio has said numerous times, and the club decided to let Darren Fletcher be interim. It's embarrassing. But if you're bringing in someone like Xavi, that is a whole different kind of style of play to what we have in a minute. I would prefer to integrate someone like that in the summer, personally. Honestly, that's just my opinion. And United will wait until the summer to make a permanent manager appointment. I think a lot of journalists have reported that. United put out a statement as well. It says Ruben Amorim has departed his role as head coach of Manchester United. Ruben was appointed in November and led the team to UEFA League final, which he lost in Bilbao in May. With United sitting 6th in the Premier League, the club's leadership has reluctantly made the decision that it's the right time to make a change. This will give the team the best opportunity at the highest possible Premier League finish. The club would like to thank Ruben for his contribution to the club and wishes him well for the future. Darren Fletcher will take charge of the team against Burnley on Wednesday. Ooh. Never a normal day at this club, is there? Never a normal day. I know Darren Fletcher has been taking charge of the under-18s, and there's a lot of people saying, he's doing good work. Actually, I'm pretty sure we did a hot takes at the start of the season, and it might be someone watching it right now, but someone put at the start of the season, I can see Darren Fletcher being an interim manager. I'm pretty sure they did. So if it was you, show yourself, because that was, that's some crystal ball shit. I don't know what to tell you. But he's going to come in. I'm sure he's respected. He's respected by the hierarchy, obviously. Otherwise, he won't be in that position. Respected by the players. He is a former player. And we've seen this rodeo before. So it wouldn't surprise me, actually, if we got an upturn in results and we saw, revert to a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 and let the shackles off a little bit. You'll get the attacking players back, which naturally performances will improve, excuse me, anyway. But you've got a good first game to come to. You're playing Burnley. Do you know what I mean? So that's a good springboard. But then Brighton in the FA Cup is tricky. Arsenal and Man City after that, you are being thrown right in there. And I think it's interesting to see if he sinks or swims as an interim manager. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. I did not think it would move this quick from seeing all the reports last night, because I put in the chat, in the Real Reds group chat that we're in, like, there's going to be a big show tomorrow. Loads of things to discuss. Noise, should he go? Should he stay? You're seeing like Paul Scholes, his son, coming out, absolutely slagging him off. You're seeing, tension behind the scenes, doubts. Even Ratcliffe reports around that as well. And then bang, you wake up first thing in the morning, and that's the first thing you see. So they're obviously not hesitant. They was cutthroat, and they was like, right, we need to make a decision. Let's make it. Which, as opposed to previous ownership or whatever you want to call it, they've pulled the trigger. Apparently as well, Christopher Vell will take a much more central role in United's new head coach search and subsequent player recruitment. So they're obviously a fan of him as well. So yeah, movements and pieces behind the scenes. It got to a point where it had to just end in it. It had to, like, it felt like we said it in the post-match review yesterday. It just felt like we were dragging our ass across the line. I feel like if we would have got European football, it would have been because all the teams around us were shit. Not necessarily because we were good, because on a points average, by the end of the season, we finish on around 57 points, and that's never good enough to get top 4 or even top 5. That's probably 8th, 7th or 8th place, typically in the Premier League season. But because of the way the Premier League has gone and how crazy it's been, you might just have a chance, and that might be their thinking as well, in terms of if this interim manager can come in and get a tune out of this team like previous ones have, you might actually sneak Champions League football. Because we've been very lucky in regards to the results around us. I feel like, Liverpool, again, dropping points to Fulham. Chelsea drop points, obviously, to Man City, which is more acceptable. Obviously, Crystal Palace lost. Tottenham drop points, even though they're not really close to us. Like, it's a free-for-all. It's a complete free-for-all. So bringing in an interim manager, they're like, do you know what? Let's just fucking go for it. And it is a risky move. It's definitely a risky move. To be honest, I don't think he'll pick his sons to play. He won't want to be accused of favoritism. Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. Lumen saying wrong formation, wrong lineups, wrong substitutions, wrong manager. Yeah, look, if you're a uni student and you're doing an assessment on him and you're writing an article or whatever it is, and you're going and you're looking for any kind of green shoots of positivity, the main ones are usually he's good with the media. He looks like a good person, and the players said that about him. But from a pure footballing perspective, the football on the pitch ain't good enough. I get you stretched against Leeds yesterday, but we had 7 defenders on the pitch. The football against Wolves at Old Trafford was shocking, and we've been beat at Old Trafford way too many times. And it's just there's no evolution there tactically. He's been stubborn. This will work. This will work. This will work. And it just hasn't. And it's been stale, and it's been like this for a bit. I personally, after the Grimsby game, that was the one for me where I was like, I'm going to struggle to jump on board with this manager. And loads of people have gone, way before that. People were done, and they might sit there on high horse now and be like, oh, told you about Amorim and blah, blah, blah. But like I said at the start of the video, if you don't believe in something, if you don't try and back a manager, like we are called supporters, support the team, support the manager, until obviously it becomes inevitable where you've got to make a decision. And I think the timing is probably right, to be honest with you. People are unhappy with Ineos, and I get it, because again, that's their guy who they brought in. There was the decision with Ten Hag, which they got wrong in giving him a new deal. I think the fans jumped on it because obviously he just won an FA Cup, but they was kind of reactive to that, and then the whole Dan Ashworth stuff as well. And then Amorim is their guy. But where I'm losing it a little bit is, why bring in a guy who I'm sure they had conversations and they would have said, and Amorim would have said, this is my system, the 3-4-3 is what I'm going with, and I don't want to see that system for a long, long time unless it's someone competent at doing it. If it's Conte winning the Premier League or something, then, or Tuchel or whatever, then I might jump on it, but I don't want to see that system for a while. But why bring in a manager who's so wedded to a system and is so stubborn with it to then say, oh, well, he's not changing? Well, these are the conversations that you had. This is not like, surely you mentioned this. He probably said, I'm going to play this system, but it's a very specific system and I need certain players in it. I need certain players in it to flourish, and it's going to take time. And there's not enough time, especially when if you're getting results, then you can get yourself along. But I've just mentioned at the start, this is his record as a Man United manager, and this is like 38% win rate, the worst of any Man United manager in the Premier League era. 63 matches, 25 wins, 15 draws, and 23 losses. What else are you supposed to do as an ownership? Do you know what I mean? What decision have Ineos got right to get them gone? I think certain recruitment has been decent. I think Le Mans is a shiny light in recruitment, and that's a good decision. I think obviously Mbumo coming in, and again, people say that's a bit of a tap in because he was doing well in the Premier League, but it doesn't always work out like that. I think Mbumo and Cunha are decent decisions. I think the recruitment has been better, in my opinion. Behind the scenes, I'm not sure because you don't really know the details, but obviously Carrington and the new Carrington and decisions and more efficient decisions being made behind the thing. People didn't agree with the sackings, but they streamlined it now so it's more cost efficient. Like there's been decisions there that have been good, but obviously no ownership's going to get everything right. Club is over. Wilcox brought it out immediately. Are incompetent. Glinios out. They hire a manager and proceed not to back him. Ralph Rangnick all over again. We are no longer a big club. I think that the decision's bad purely because we fans know that the sack was not because of the results. It was because he stood up against the board. He got my respect because he did what Rangnick. I felt sick. The circus continues. A lot of people unhappy about it. But I feel like it's the same people that were wanting Amorim to go. So am I right in thinking you wanted him to stay until the end of the season? Or are you just annoyed that we're bringing another interim manager? I'm confused. I don't know what we want here as a kind of fan base. As for Amorim's replacement, when we're looking towards the summer, God knows who that's going to be. I suppose we've got 6 months to talk about that. Plenty of time to get stuck into that. We'll be live again a little bit later on. I had to go live and get my opinion out there and discuss this because obviously it's massive news. But we'll be live again a little bit later on as a group discussing the full thing and breaking it down once we've got more details and stuff. So appreciate every single one of you. I've got rush off. I'll be back later on.